We're going to discuss FLEID introduction, just give you a brief introduction of FLEID. I'm going to provide you some data quality gems. We're going to discuss the business rules draft. We will talk about resolutions, vault quality. We will also talk about the FLEID vault versus the survey. And we'll end it with our Bureau Chief, Shauna Reed, who will discuss the FLEID matching and verification process. So let's walk on down the data quality street. So today we're going to have two sessions. One is the data quality session with me, and then we're going to have the technical session right after this with Shauna Reed. Right now we are accepting 14-15 through 2022 data, student and staff. And student is required, and we do accept staff data, but it's not required. For the FAMIS survey feedback, please provide us some helpful, constructive feedback. Make sure that you put the presenter's name. And if you want to add any additional information that you would like to see on further presentations, just add that information in the constructive feedback for the FAMIS survey. And for the FLEID contact list updates, if you have any new staff members, please send the staff members' contact information to the FLEID project email, so they will be able to receive any email notifications, any pre-processing notifications. They will get that notification with the updated contact. And then we also have the near match directory, which we would like one designee from a district. If any other districts have any questions, they can reach out to verify a student's information. And where you can find this near match directory, you can go into the FLEID application and you can go under near match directory and you can see the list of the staff members for each district that you can contact for any resolution questions. So let's take a detour right now. How many of you are new to FLEID? Can you raise your hand? Don't be scared. I see it's low. Can you take it high? Okay. Welcome. So for everyone that's new, let me just give you some introductory cheat sheet notes right now, some tips. The FLEID is 14 characters alphanumeric. It starts with the FL and then it's 12 digits followed by a series of 12 digits. It's used to identify both student and staff data. And like I said before, we do require student, staff, we are accepting, but it's not required. The FLEID was mandated in 2014, and the Florida statute is 1008.386. And I would say if you're new to FLEID, it would be good for you to review the Florida statute. The FLEID is stored in a secure database called the FLEID Vault. And as of July 1st, 2020, the FLEID is the only identifier accepted on the district data submission. And for district and college files, they can be processed Monday through Sunday as many times you want to send student files up to be assigned FLEIDs, Monday through Sunday. We do have a maintenance window, but once that maintenance window is done and patching has happened, it'll just go back to the queue and it'll pick up the last file. The FLEID reduces the usage and transferring of SSNs within the educational system. An identifier quality and accuracy managed within the FLDOE. The verification ensures local sources are provided consistent data. We also have a training site available for anyone that's new to FLEID, just to give you more guidance and just make you more acquainted with the FLEID process. If you don't, if your supervisor doesn't have the training site link, please send an email to the FLEID project email and we will provide you the training site link. We also have the FLEID technical guide, which will provide you the master file format, what's required in the master file format for you to submit your records, and what's all the length that's needed for that master file format. And in that case, if you don't have the technical guide, reach out to the FLEID project email and we will provide you the technical guide also. So let's talk about some FLEID statistics. Right now, if you look up on our left and right on the screen, you'll see that the districts are leading with the most FLEIDs that have been assigned. We have almost about 6 million FLEIDs total that has been assigned, 95% student and 5% staff. We also have other data sources like FCS, we have WITIS, Office of Early Learning, we have School Choice, and we also have a FATSCHE. So we have a total statewide of FLEIDs that has been assigned about 10 million. So go districts. All right, so let's talk about some data quality gems. So in order to protect the student and staff information, PII should not be included in the emails, FLEID team, or to others while resolving FLEID discrepancies. This is very important. I know some of you are sick of me putting that on the emails and letting you know, please don't send that information, but just make sure you don't have the FLEID, the name, the DOB in an email. You just only, if I need to do any resolutions, please only provide the FLEID and a brief summary. That's it. Don't provide any other information. If I need any more information, I'll send you an email and tell you to send it in a separate email. This will be discussed as part of the vault quality section moving forward in the presentation, and potential ideas will be discussed in the technical session with our lovely Shauna Reed. Users have asked for additional information about our processes at a higher level. We have a one-pager to assist with submission parameters and steps. We have created business rules, a business rule draft that will be available for your review. It will be on the FLEID application for your review. Once it's approved, and we'll send out a notification to all the districts to see the business rules. And then you can check out the technical session to discuss a new resource page on the application. So let's talk about what's coming up for data quality. We're going to streamline the existing correction process. And then we'll have source system verification process to verify your data before you submit it. And then we'll provide data quality reports, just showing you what's outstanding for your district, what your data looks like, just give you a brief summary of what you're submitting into the vault. So let's talk about the business rules. The FLEID business rules have 3 objectives. We have user clarity, which will give you clarity around processing parameters and provide guidance on daily operations. So how we look at splits, how we look at retirements, how we do file submissions, what your file naming needs to look like. It'll give you just guidance on how to do those tasks every day. We have data quality, will help users understand the source of data rejections due to not meeting outline requirements. And then we will have the file standards that are required for submission and are essential to the FLEID assignment process. So right here, this is an example of our draft of what the business rules would look like. So right here, you just see that we have the file naming convention, how you need to send the file naming convention, what it specifically needs to look like, how it's transferred through TIBCO, why your files are rejected. You're going to get all the parameters and guidance on the business rules. And I know everyone has been looking forward to this. So let's talk about vault quality. Some of the resolutions that we have retirements, we have merges, and we have splits. So for everyone that's new, retirements, they occur when FLEIDs are created in error and records have been found with substantial issues and must be subsequently removed from the vault. And it's just, if you submitted a record, a student's record accidentally, and you send it up to the vault and they were signed FLEID, you didn't mean to send it, you want to remove it from the vault, all you have to do is send us that FLEID and we will retire that record. We have FLEID merges. Merges occur when 2 or more records that have been assigned multiple FLEIDs after review, they're deemed the same person. So you could have sent the student up with information, original name, and then the student may have had updated information for the name, and then you send it up and it got a new FLEID. It'll give the student 2 different FLEIDs. And once I reach back out to the district, we can find out these students are the same student, and we can merge the record to reflect that student have 1 FLEID. And for splits, it occurs when 2 or more records that have been assigned 1 FLEID after review, they're deemed 2 different people. So let's talk about the resolution checklist. For retirements, merges, and splits, you can send those through email. Like I said before, you only need to provide the FLEID. Don't provide any other information but the FLEID in a brief summary. And also, when you send the students information, just make sure that you have everyone on the email that's involved. If you're doing a merge or anything that's going to cause a resolution, make sure you have all the districts on the email. If you don't have it on there, I'm going to make sure I put the districts on the email so they are notified if anything changes with their FLEID. If it's retired, if it's merges, I want to make sure everybody's notified so you're not clueless about what's going on. And then in order for it to be merged, we want to make sure that all the districts are in agreement for that FLEIDs to be merged. So if you're not in agreement of that, then we will keep them separate. But if you do agree, we will merge that record. And another thing too is please make sure not to send out any FLEID agents' contact information to the parents. The only thing I'm going to do is just redirect them to the district contact and then ask for you to help to resolve that parents' information or students' problem. And then one more thing is if we are doing any resolutions, please make sure to check that you have a record in that FLEID. Because I'm finding when I'm doing corrections or doing mergers, retirements, I go into putting that FLEID into our system, and you don't have a record in there, and that's fine. The only thing I'm going to ask is for you to submit your student's record to be tied into that FLEID. So if you don't have a record, I can't do any resolution on that record until you have a record in that FLEID. Oh, and then one more thing too. The other thing too, to verify if you do have a record in the FLEID or not, go back to the FLEID application and put that FLEID in the lookup. And then it'll show you who all contributes to that FLEID to verify it. So another one we have is corrections. Corrections occurs when a district, college, or source submits a record and it determines that there is an error in the identifiers, the first name, the last name, the middle name, initial, appendage, date of birth, birthplace, and demographics, and you would like that to be updated. That is a correction. And for the full or partial legal name changes occurs when students and staff have full or partial legal name changes. Examples include adoption and marriage. So let's talk about some changes that are going to come to corrections and legal name changes. So for phase 1, July 1st, 2021, all corrections requests will go through TIBCO. They will no longer be accepted via email. So if you have any name updates, if you have any date of birth, they will go through TIBCO. You can send those in the Excel spreadsheet. We're going to have a new file format for Excel spreadsheets if you send any corrections that way. All you have to do is reach out to the project email and we will provide you the new file format. We also will have a new file naming convention and submission parameters of submitting those corrections. We will still be accepting the text file master format with the extension CORR, and this process will be partially manual as we finalize the corrections process. And the timeframe will vary depending on the queue. And that's for phase 1, and that starts July 1st, 2021. So let's talk about phase 2. Phase 2, that'll be July 1st, 2022. All corrections will go through TIBCO. We will no longer accept Excel spreadsheets. We will have a new file naming convention instead of the extension, and we will only be accepting the text file and the master file format. This process will be completely automated, and the time frame will establish we will establish a time frame during piloting. And during piloting, we're going to select a group of districts that we're going to test for the automated process, and we'll let you know what groups that we select, what districts that we're going to select for the piloting process. And this should be, once we move it to automated, I think it will be just faster. It'll get your corrections done faster. You'll send them in and they'll get done faster. That's why we're trying to move it to an automated process. Okay. So let's go down data quality street again. And this one, I've been getting a lot of questions about the FLEID versus the survey. So let's talk about the vault submission. So on the FLEID vault, we have the different source systems. We have OEL, K-12, FATSCHE, School Choice, and WITIS, and FES that submit to the FLEID vault. They go in for an assignment, and then the near matches go out into the application. That is the FLEID vault, and that is handled by the FLEID team. You have the survey submission that's being submitted with K-12's data that goes into the survey database, and then it goes to the student locator. That is, the student locator is handled by the EIS team by Teresa Senko. Those are two different databases handled by two different departments and two different teams. There's no direct link between the FLEID vault and the survey data collection. I know that you're bubbling inside and you're like over it, but there's no direct link. If you make a change to the vault, it is not automatically cascaded to the survey, vice versa. When finding errors on the survey or potential FLEID duplication, please ensure that this is the case in the vault. And the way to find that out is to take that FLEID, walk it back to the FLEID application, and go into the lookup tab and put that FLEID in the lookup tab to see what student comes up for that FLEID. And for the FTE purposes, please ensure that when they're matching students, you pay attention to the middle name. During the survey FTE time, I have a lot of emails about a student having that has the same FLEID, but it's two different students. And when you go and you look at the student, you'll see that the middle name is completely different. So I ask that just you do a little bit more research on that FLEID and not assign them the same FLEID, and just pay attention to the middle name. And during this time, if you just need any help, please reach out to the FLEID team. We're more than welcome to look students' information up or just help you give you a little bit more clarification on any student's information. Okay, right now? Okay. So one thing I wanted to put on the presentation, and I know it's not on here, but I want to talk about FES. And I know I've gotten a lot of questions about FES. Shannon, why is there so many duplication with the students? When you look at the FLEIDs, some of the names are off. You have the date of birth is off, sometimes the month is off, sometimes the entire date of birth is off. So it's providing a new FLEID because it's looking at that student as a new student. It's not looking at it as the same student. So in that case, if you do have duplication of the students, all I ask is that you send the original FLEID that you had in your system, and then the one that you're getting from FES, I'll go in, I'll merge the records to reflect one FLEID. The only thing before that I ask is if they have something separate on the records, if any way that you could verify what's the correct date of birth, verify what's the correct name before you send it in, I would appreciate it. But I will merge the student's record, I would keep the district FLEID, and then once I'm done, it reflects one FLEID, the records look good, I'll send an email to you letting you know what's the active FLEID for the student, and then I'll send it to FES to let them know to update the payment file. And then I know you're gonna come back and say, Shannon, we have done this 4 to 5 times and they're not updating the payment file. I ask that you just send me an email again and say, Shannon, they're not updated. Then I'll go back and I'll try to reach out to them to see if they can get it updated as soon as possible. Okay? All right. I see some smiles. Yes, smiles. Okay, so now I want to pass the presentation to Shauna Reed to just talk about the matching and verification process of FLEID. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. So really quickly, I just wanted to briefly touch on matching and verifications for the FLEID process. We don't have it currently, but it's something that we're thinking about exploring. I know a lot of you all ask me sometimes the lookup is not the best. You can't do flexible searching. You can't see some heads over there. I know it's not the most flexible. So what we're thinking about is we're bouncing it around right now. It's just a discussion topic, I should say, is the matching. So right now we have people who are transporting students, for example. They don't necessarily, they're not enrolled in your district. You transport the student and you need an FLEID, you can't get it. So we're thinking about making a matching process available so that you can drop your file, you drop the information that you have, and we can give you the potential FLEIDs that might be available for that student. Since you don't have the flexibility around the searching, we think that that might be something that would be beneficial to the districts. But we would love your feedback, and if you would be, willing to give us some feedback around that, if you're open to that, or if you think that's a good idea, then we'll explore that a little bit more. Another thing that we have on the radar is verifications, FLEID verifications. So we do this right now for the colleges. And essentially what this does is it helps clean up your survey submissions. So we would be checking your FLEID on submission. It's not something we're doing now. It's not something that's in progress. It's something we're talking about and that I would really love to implement. So essentially when you submit your file for the survey submission, it would come to us at the same time. We would do a verification and say, hey, that looks great. Keep going. Submit that file unless you have other errors on your survey submission. If it doesn't look good, we would kick it back and say, this does not look like the student that's associated with this FLEID. So we are actively doing that with the colleges, and it is helping with their quality around the vault. And it's something that I wanted to just bring up to you all as a discussion topic. And it's a perfect leeway into the technical session. So we will talk a little bit more about some of these items in the session that's coming up. So thank you, Shannon, for allowing me to transition that one. Back to Shannon.
Okay. Right now, we're going to open the floor up for any questions. Do anybody have any questions?
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay.
I was wondering if there's any way that you guys can work in that OEL to automatically run, because we get so many of those.
We could do the auto.
We are matched in a very large district. It's awful.
Okay, we do have a process, the OEL auto match. We talked about it last year, but if you have a number of near matches and you're seeing that they're matching to OEL, you can send us an email and I can go through your near matches and I can auto match them to OEL. So it can clear out the ones that match to OEL.
That's not something that you can just automatically run. You have to take the time to verify.
Yes. And then once I'm done, I'll send you an email back, say I'm done. You can keep working on the near matches.
I can say something on that. Okay. So thank you for that one. I'll put it on the queue for something that maybe we could potentially automate. So it's not something you have to keep notifying us about. As soon as we see your file, we match it against the vault. And if it's a District 97 or OEL file, then maybe it's something that we can auto resolve. So we'll put that on our radar.
Yes.
Kind of like student, you guys have a time frame when you flip that switch and say it's going to be mandatory?
No.
We received no information on whether that would be mandatory. They keep telling us that it's something that's optional right now. So. Okay. Right. We have heard nothing about any future changes to make it required for staff.
The reason I was asking your charges, but if we as someone have the staff information in our system.
Got it.
So right now, they give us information, we're reporting as zeros, and we have our place to accept that. But also checking if I can't get the timetable, so we can actually flip that switch.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, no timetable at this point that we're aware of.
Any other questions? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Finish early. You have until 2:30, so you have 20 minutes. Yeah. I mean, open for anyone to discuss. questions.
Yeah, you